China's president is warning against a new Cold War as the U.S. continues its provocation in the Taiwan Strait. The latest further diplomatic rule breaking on the behalf of Washington and talks of sending even more American-made arms to Taiwan. RT's Alex Mihailovich has the story.
Just a few years ago, one might have called the relationship between China and the U.S. strained, but somewhat amicable. Now, the picture is very different. What started off as trade tensions has turned into a geopolitical tussle, with the U.S. placing Taiwan at the heart of the issue, starting with a potentially dangerous break in protocol.
I can say with confidence that the United States' partnership with Taiwan is stronger than ever. We share deep economic ties, a mutual commitment to democratic values, and a critically important security partnership.
Following Trump's footsteps, the Biden administration has been sending officials to the island, in spite of a long-standing agreement with mainland China. Since 1972, the United States have recognized the government of the People's Republic of China as the sole legal government of China, acknowledging that Taiwan is a part of China. However, America's actions steadily disregard this agreement, especially in recent years. Adding fuel to the fire, and some would say going against that agreement, the U.S. has been selling weapons directly to Taiwan, with sales becoming an increasingly blatant affront to Beijing. China's president is warning against America's escalation. Without mentioning the U.S., Xi Jinping made his thoughts clear in a composed but deliberate message.
Having experienced the pandemic, people of all countries have realized more clearly that it is necessary to abandon the Cold War mentality and zero-sum game and oppose any form of new Cold War and ideological confrontation. When countries get along with each other, we must put equality, mutual respect, and mutual trust at the forefront. And it is unpopular to boss around and interfere in others' internal affairs.
While diplomacy seems to be the path China would prefer, Taiwan and its American partner have given the Asian superpower little choice other than to flex its muscle. Earlier this month, China sent a record 25 military aircraft like these into Taiwan's self-declared Air Defense Identification Zone, a move that many believe is meant as a warning as Taipei continues to be emboldened by the U.S.
The Taiwan issue concerns China's sovereignty and territorial integrity and China's core interest. China has no room for compromise. We urge the U.S. side to have a clear understanding of the situation, earnestly abide by the One China principle and the provisions of the 3 Sino-U.S. joint communiques, and not play with fire on the Taiwan issue.
The latest? The government in Taipei is seeking to acquire long-range, air-launched cruise missiles from the U.S. to add to its American-made arsenal, specifically Lockheed Martin's AGM-158. The so-called Joint Air-to-Surface Standoff Missile has a potential range of over 600 miles, and it can be fixed to aircraft, including F-16s, which are part of Taiwan's war machine. The U.S. is Taiwan's main foreign arms supplier, and it is common knowledge that the Pentagon is behind an initiative known as Fortress Taiwan. With current diplomacy seemingly having little effect, China is continuing to prepare for the worst, with the fact remaining that any military capabilities that Taiwan may have are dwarfed by China's massive armed forces. For RT, I'm Alex Mihailovich.
And for more on the growing tensions between the U.S. and China, we'll bring in Scott Ritter. He's a former U.S. Marine Corps intelligence officer turned UN weapons inspector and contributor to RT.com. Scott, always good to see you. In your latest write-up for RT.com, you pointed out the deterioration of the U.S. military in its latest war games. Walk us through why you had such criticism about the state of the military.
Well, it's not that I have criticism. It's a statement of reality as reflected by the results of 3 consecutive war games that transpired between 2018 and 2020 involving the United States military confronting the communist China. The first war game in 2018 dealt with the United States coming to the defense of Taiwan in the face of a concerted communist Chinese effort to recapture the island. and the United States lost. It was annihilated, destroyed, no contest. The second one involved the United States confronting China in the South China Sea. And again, the United States lost. And then the last one last year, the United States actually prevailed in a Pyrrhic victory of sorts. China was only able to capture part of the island, and that was called a victory. But in order to achieve this, the United States had to deviate from reality and go into fiction, meaning that the capabilities that the United States used to prevail don't exist. We don't own them. We made up fighters that we don't have. We made up command and control capabilities that are only in the minds of theorists. They're not even being developed fully. So when reality comes, the United States military today is incapable in a conventional fight to stand up to the capabilities of communist China. That's just a statement of fact. We've spent the last 20 years watching our military be degraded as it transformed from what was the world's greatest combined arms combat force to a military that was solely focused on kicking in the doors of civilian homes in Iraq and Afghanistan, carrying out low-intensity counterinsurgency conflict. And now today, we don't have a military that's capable of standing up to peer-level forces, both in China and in Russia. That's just a statement of reality.
Now, the F-35 Joint Striker is an example that you mentioned. It has been in development for many, many years, tens and tens and tens of millions in cost overruns, multiple engineering failures. It's been one thing after the next on that fighter jet. As tensions grow with China, do the Chinese have aerial hardware that the DoD is actually prepared for, given the failures with the F-35 so far? So, in other words, can we take an aerial fight from China?
No. Look, the thing the F-35 was supposed to do is give us the ability to reach out and touch enemy aircraft over the horizon. That is, they would be dead before they knew we were even there. The F-35 was supposed to give us that. It can't deliver that. So the F-35 has become simply another close-in dogfighter, and it's inferior in every way, shape, and form to older Chinese fighters. Chinese fighters that are based upon Russian technology, Su-30, Su-35, things of that nature, can just shoot down the American aircraft at will. Not only that, we don't have enough airplanes and we don't have enough missiles. So even if every missile we fired killed a Chinese aircraft, we'd run out of missiles before they ran out of aircraft.
And real briefly, last thing here, specifically for Taiwan, why are they taking such provocative moves against China? I mean, some might call that poking the sleeping giant. They're even asking members of the church or temples to become part of the island's reserve force in case there are Chinese hostilities. And why is the U.S. getting dragged into this?
Well, I think right now the U.S. and Taiwan are confronting the reality that, the U.S. cavalry may not be riding to the rescue if China chooses to attack. And therefore, in order to prevent a Chinese attack, rather than counting on a U.S. military capability that doesn't currently exist, Taiwan needs to create as robust a defense capability as possible to deter China, to make it too expensive for China. And that's why I think you're seeing the increased arms sales, and I think you're seeing Taiwan develop these militias so that if China is considering invading, and I would tell you right now, they're not, but if they were, they might think twice because the cost would be too high. Keep in mind this, China's not looking for war. They make their money off of economic stability, and war is the antithesis of economic stability.
Absolutely. We'll leave it right there. Scott Ritter, thank you so much for that insight.